My parents decided to move to an old two-story house in the middle of the forest. My face dropped when I saw how dry everything looked. Most of the trees looked lifeless. There was no grass. Everything was just so depressing. "Are you excited to start your new life, everyone?" my father said in an excited tone, while me and my brother just grunted. "Well, as for me, I'm not excited for the cleaning," my mother said with a sigh. My father pretended not to hear her as he parked and got out of the van. We got out as well, and with every step, you can hear the crunch underneath our feet. Everywhere we saw was dry, but my dad, with a lot of excitement, dangling the keys in his hand, unlocked the door and pushed it open. Home sweet home. And we all went inside. The inside of the home was the opposite of how it was outside. It was pretty, with a vibe of European style. Me and my brother raced to choose a room, but my brother pushed me to the side playfully, taking advantage, and quickly went through each room. By the time I caught up with him, he had already chosen the biggest room there was besides the master bathroom. "I put dibs on this one," he said as he stood in front of the room, not allowing me to take a peek inside. I frowned as I stepped on him, making him grunt and push him to the side and went in. His room had a huge window that allowed you to see the backyard. The scenery was nice, except, of course, it could have been better if only the trees were green. I left his room as I went to check out the only 2 available rooms that were left. I went to the room that was next to my brother's. It was a decent-sized room, but had the same type of window as my brother's. Then I went to my last choice, which was in the corner but the room was very small. I didn't have much to think about which room I should choose. When I was going back to my first choice, I heard a random sound. I didn't know where it came from. My parents were outside trying to get the things from the van out, and my brother was still in his room, so I knew it wasn't them. I tried going to the direction of the sound, where it came from, and it took me to a door that was apart from all the other rooms. Curious. And I opened it up, and it had some stairs leading up. This must be an attic? I looked up and I could see the rays of the sun peeking out. I went upstairs and I was met with an elegant-looking bay window. I went to take a closer peek and the view was amazing. It was just like my brother's view, but you could see more. I looked around the room and the sight was even bigger than my brother's, maybe even bigger than my parents' room. I didn't have to think twice. This was it. This is my room. A big smile crossed my lips, and I quickly went to gather my things from the van to claim the room as mine. It was already past 8 when we gathered in the dining room to eat some sandwiches that my mom had prepared. "I'll be able to cook food once I get all my kitchen items tomorrow," my mom said, as she took a bite of the sandwich. My dad was almost halfway done with his before he replied, "The moving truck with the remainder of our items should arrive tomorrow morning. We could survive with this for now. Besides, we brought a lot of snacks," my dad says as he reaches out his hands on a bag that was under the table and brings out a bag of chips. My mom shook her head disappointed, and my brother didn't even hesitate to take the bag, open it up, and pour some on his plate. "Did you see the room that Caroline chose? It's beautiful," my mom said, and my dad nodded. "Yeah, it is. A nice small sofa would fit perfectly in front of those windows, so she could enjoy reading some books." My brother frowned. He wasn't too pleased when he saw the room I had chosen, since it was much bigger than the room he chose. "Since I'm the older brother, shouldn't I be getting that room?" My parents both shook their heads. "No, you already choose your room. I even heard you yell dibs across the house. Can't back down now," our father said, and Mom agreed. We continued eating and spending time together before we all decided to call it a night. We were exhausted from the long trip and the cleaning we had to do, and still more cleaning awaits us tomorrow. We all said our good nights and we all headed to our new rooms. It's a good thing that the first moving truck that arrived had all our beds and mattresses in it, so we didn't have to sleep on the floor the first night. My dad and my brother had a little trouble bringing my bed and stuff to my room since you had to go up the stairs. By the time they finished, they were already exhausted. All I could say is that at least the remainder of the furniture I had left wasn't that much and shouldn't be that heavy. But I know I'll be taking a lot of trips going up and down the stairs. Just thinking about it is making my legs feel sore already. But I'll leave that to the future me to worry about. The present me just wants to sleep. I got comfy in bed and fell into a deep sleep. I got woken up by a bright light that was shining in my room. I squinted my eyes as I tried to figure out where that light was coming from, and it was from my window. I grabbed my phone and checked the time. It was 2 a.m. I frowned and curious, I got out of bed, put my slippers on, and went towards the window to see what it could be. It was hard to see anything since the light was blinding. I couldn't make out what was giving that light, so I decided to change my slippers to my shoes quickly and went downstairs to take a closer look. I was expecting to see my parents downstairs since there was no way they could miss that blinding light, but my brother was the only one there peeking through the windows. When he heard my steps, he turned around and with his hand he motioned me to get close. I tried to see what he was seeing, and the light was coming from the forest. "Let's go check it out," my brother whispered as he started walking towards the door. I hesitated a little before I followed close behind him. There were voices that could be heard with every step we took. Me and my brother both looked at each other, because that shouldn't be possible when we didn't have any neighbors close by. When we arrived at the source of the light, it came from a little house in the middle of the forest. "Dad never said there was another house on the property," I said, and my brother replied, "Maybe he just forgot." When we got close and took a peek through the windows, what we saw left us speechless. They were fairies, like actual fairies. But these fairies were colorful, and they seemed to be 30 inches long. Their pointy ears were visible, and their wings. The wings were the ones that were radiating light. And since there were a few fairies gathered together in such a small room, the light mixed becoming blinding. Me and my brother were left speechless. We didn't even move. We were shocked at such scene that was happening right in front of our eyes. Then suddenly we felt a light shine behind us, and suddenly everything went black. I felt someone shaking my shoulder. "Wake up, Caroline." And when I opened my eyes, I was met with a lot of small eyes looking straight at me. Their wings were releasing a warm glow now that was soft to the eyes. I turned to look at my brother, but he seemed rather calm. "Don't worry, everything's okay. They won't hurt us." I looked at my brother completely lost. In front of us were fairies, things that shouldn't be possible, that everyone thought it was just a part of a story that someone made up. Only 3 fairies were in the room. The other ones must have gotten scared and left. "Tisk, humans are too weak, even though they're bigger than us," one of the fairies said. "Don't be rude. This wouldn't have happened if all of us didn't forget to turn invisible," the fairy in the middle said. "Not our fault that the house was empty for many years and all of a sudden humans appear. Seems to me that it's their fault." The other 2 fairies just shook their head at his words. "Don't pay attention to him. He didn't receive enough love when he was little," the fairy in the middle said, and the other fairy grunted. "We didn't mean to put you 2 to sleep, but it was for protection. We didn't know if you were friends or foes, but your brother explained everything. They just moved to the house." I nodded, still unable to accept that all this was happening. My brother, on the other hand, was over the moon over all this. "Caroline, they said that they were having a meeting over the forest. You know how everything's all dead and stuff? Well, they were making plans to be able to turn everything back to how beautiful it was before." The nice fairy from the middle nodded. "What he is saying is true, but with you guys here, everything should go smoother." "Oh, but it has to be a secret from your parents. We don't like humans to know about our existence." "But what exactly can we do? We're just humans. We don't have any magic," I said. The moody red fairy shook its head. At least you know there's nothing special about you. The pink fairy smacked its arm. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything at all. All that was happening while the green fairy was just there looking embarrassed over how his, I'm guessing, friends were acting. You just have to be yourself. Be happy and accept your new home. The house is like the heart of the forest. Everything is rooted there, the green fairy said. Oh, is that it? I thought that'd be more than that, my brother said. It does sound easy, but humans' heart is so complex. One day they can be happy, and the other they can be mad. Of course you can always be happy all the time, but the house will know when you have completely accepted it as your home, the pink fairy said. Both me and my brother looked at each other, understanding what the fairy meant. All right, we will do our best. All the three fairies looked at one another and nodded. Well, humans, it's best for you to start heading home now. It's already late, and us fairies must go as well. My brother offered his hand to me, and I took it and stood up. The fairies were the first to open the door and leave. We watched them fly away before they completely disappeared from our eyes and everything went dark. My brother took out his phone and turned on the flashlight. I followed close to him, and we both didn't see anything until we were inside our home. That was crazy. It's so hard to believe that we actually went through that just now, my brother said as he put away his phone. Let's get some sleep for now. Tomorrow, everything should make sense. And with that, he started walking away. I didn't wait to see him go to his room when I made my way to my room. Once in my room, I threw myself to bed, but instead of losing sleep over everything that just happened, I quickly drifted off to sleep. I got woken up in the morning by a bright light shining in my eyes. Hey human, wake up. You won't save the forest in your dreams. I squinted my eyes and frowned as I put the blanket over my head. How childish. Your brother is already awake and decorating his room. I pulled the blanket to the side and looked at the red fairy. Where are your other friends? The red fairy shrugged. They're probably with your brother. You're stuck with me though, which sucks for you, the red fairy said as he completely pulled my blanket away and urged me to get up. Go eat and get energy because today you have a lot of things to do. I watched the fairy flying around my room, looking at the boxes and stopping by the window. Without saying anything, I left the room and headed downstairs, and sure enough, my family was starting to get ready to get some breakfast. I took a seat and sighed. I started getting mentally ready for what the day had in store for me. I was almost done putting half of my things away with the help of the red fairy. Even though he was always in a bad mood, he was helping me out put posters on the walls or put the books in its place. Then I almost got a heart attack when one of my parents popped in to see how I was doing. I completely made a fool of myself as I stuttered to explain to my mom about the red fairy, just for the fairy to say that my mom couldn't see or hear him unless he gave them permission. Before my mom left, she looked at me weirdly, and I frowned at the red fairy. Why didn't you tell me that sooner? I said angry, and the red fairy just laughed. Well, you didn't ask, but your reaction was hilarious. I ignored his comment as I continued decorating my room. After a while, the second moving truck arrived, and we all had to help move the things inside our home. Before we knew it, it was already nighttime. My mom was happy to have her kitchen set, and she quickly made some food for us, while my brother and dad were finishing up putting the TV on the wall. After a while, we all finished our food, and after all the dirty dishes were cleaned, my parents excused themselves to their room. They said they were done for the day. My brother and I were the only ones that stayed behind. We're almost done decorating. It's looking nice so far. Oh, come and check my room. I should be done with it tonight if I don't go to sleep early. I followed my brother to his room, and he opened the door. We were greeted by the pink and green fairies that were busy looking through my brother's movies. What a weird movie. Why is that guy covered in glitter? The pink fairy asked the other fairy. Do you know? I couldn't help but giggle at their words, and they both turned around to greet us. Caroline, hi. Sorry for not stopping by to say hi before. Your brother has a bunch of stuff. It was a complete chaos here. I hope Mr. Grumpy hasn't been that rude to you. He was the one that decided to go to you. He may seem like a bad fairy, but he likes to take care of the weak. I guess that's the first impression he got from you, that you looked weak. I was surprised at what the pink fairy said. I had noticed that as well. Of course he was cranky at first. But after we talked a little with one another, we were able to open up more to each other, and I noticed that he wasn't rude all the time. My brother showed me around his room like he was so close to finishing. He only had a few boxes left that were filled with clothes. After a small while, I left my brother's room and made my way to my room, but not before taking in how the house was looking. Most of the boxes were gone, decorations were put in their place, and everything looked so cozy. I couldn't help but smile. When I first entered this new place, everything looked so dull, like it could never become my home. But looking at it now, the house itself is starting to feel like a home. I wonder if it was thanks to what the fairy said, that the house is like the heart of the forest. So it should mean that the house can feel what our current feelings are towards it, right? I'm sorry for not accepting you before, I said in a low whisper before heading into my room. The red fairy had made its bed on the sofa that was in front of the window. Before you say anything, I'm spending the night here. It's a pain having to fly back into my home and then coming back a few hours later, he said as he got comfortable with one of my biggest plushies that I had left on the sofa. I wanted to laugh at how silly he looked, but I held it in since I knew he had such a big temper. I went to grab a bandana that I had on one of my plushies and give it to him. Here, cover yourself with this. It should be long enough for you. He didn't say anything and took it. He covered himself as he gave me his back. Thanks, he mumbled. I couldn't help but smile before I went into my bed. I turned off all the lights, and the only light that was left was from the soft glow of the red fairy's wings. But it was such a warm glow, almost like a candle, that it lulled me to sleep at how soft it looked. Caroline, wake up. Come take a look outside the window. I got woken up by the red fairy. I rubbed my eyes and sat up. I was never a morning person, so I had trouble getting fully awake. Seriously, are humans all like you? By the time you get to the window, all our trees will wither again, he said, and I quickly got up and went to the window. The scene in front of me was clearly impossible. The trees that were completely dry and withered were completely green. The ground that was nothing but dirt was filled with grass. I was speechless. This is how it was many years ago, before the people that used to live here left. But now with you and your family here, it's getting back to how it was before. The red fairy said as he nodded, satisfied with what the forest looked like. Once you're done decorating the house, we won't see each other anymore. I looked at the fairy. Why is that? You can't come by and visit again? The red fairy shook its head. You and your brother should have never seen us. We should have never met. It was never meant to happen. Why do you think all the other fairies didn't even bother to get close to you guys after you caught us in that house? I didn't think about that. Then can you at least tell me your name? I asked the red fairy, and he shook his head. We aren't allowed to share our names with humans, or else they can make us their slaves. It's a rule that every fairy should follow. I see. I understand. Can I at least give you a nickname? I said, and the red fairy grunted. Let me guess, red fairy? And I couldn't help but laugh. Was it that obvious? I said as he crossed his arms. And I bet the nickname for the other fairies is Pink and Green Fairy, am I right? And I nodded, he just sighed. A simple human with a simple brain. With that, I went down to get breakfast to gather some energy to finish off the last remainder of the boxes that were left. We finished breakfast and everyone was in such a cheery mood. my dad put on some music and everyone was singing along as we finished unpacking the last remainder boxes for the living room. Once it was done, my brother officially announced that he was done with his room. My parents said that they were done as well. As for me, I had some boxes left. I excused myself and headed to my room. When I opened the door, a gentle smell greeted my nose. The red fairy was hanging some fresh lavender right above my bed. Catching him doing that, he looked embarrassed. "A little parting gift before I leave," he said bashfully. I threw myself to the bed, and the smell of lavender helped me relax. "Thank you. Every time I look at it, it will always remind me of you and how much you have helped me." He just grunted at my words. "Just store it away once the scent is gone," he said as he flew to the last remainder of the boxes that were sitting in the corner of my room. "It's time to get this done. Not much left now," he said as he opened up the box and started putting away the last remainder of the books and decorations I had left. I looked at the red fairy and I couldn't help but feel a little sad. I had gotten used to his attitude and him just being there. That once he's gone, the room is going to feel lonely. I got out of bed and went to help out the red fairy. Together we finished with everything in no time. Not long, my dad came running into my room to tell me that all the trees were green and that it was a miracle before he quickly left. I couldn't help but laugh at my dad's reaction before the red fairy said, "Go with your family." I nodded before I took one last glimpse at my room that was finally done before my eyes went to the red fairy that was flying in the middle of my room. "Thank you, red fairy, for helping me out in my room and restoring the forest to the way it was before." He just shrugged as he crossed his arms. "I didn't do anything. It was you and your family. Y'all came to accept this place as your home, and the house felt it. We the fairies didn't do anything." I shook my head. "I still feel that you deserve my thanks anyway, for a lot of things, for helping me out, for the lavender, and for deciding to stick with me than my brother." He wasn't expecting too many compliments at once that I could see his wings glow brighter before turning around to give me his back, hiding his face from me. "Whatever, human. You're welcome. Now go with your family. They're waiting for you." With that, I couldn't help but smile before leaving my room and closing the door behind me. My family decided to make a whole feast outside to enjoy the beautiful scenery that surrounded us now. I don't know how to explain what happened, but it's like magic. "Is one of you a wizard?" my dad says, joking, as he points at me and my brother. We just looked at each other as we shook our heads. We knew the true answer of why the forest was back to normal, but that was the secret between us and the fairies. After hours of celebrating, the sun was starting to go down. We all started cleaning up, and once we were done, I went back to my room. I was expecting to see the red fairy next to my window, but he wasn't there. I looked around my room, but there was no sight of him. Then my eyes found a freshly picked lavender pressed against my pillow, and I knew in my heart what it meant. It was the last parting gift the red fairy had prepared for me. I felt a squeeze in my heart before I grabbed my phone and ran outside. Good things my parents weren't around, or else they would worry by my sudden reaction. The only place I could think of that he could be was the little house where we met for the first time. I followed the path that me and my brother had taken a few days ago, but to my surprise, when I got to the place where the house should have been, it was gone. I looked around to see if maybe I had taken the wrong path, but there wasn't. What happened to the house? It's gone. I jumped at the sudden voice coming from behind me, and I turned to see my brother looking as confused as I was. He walked past me and went to stand in the middle of the now empty field. The house had disappeared, which meant that the fairies were gone. I knew it was going to happen. The red fairy warned me about it, but I just wasn't prepared. I didn't even say goodbye to him or the other fairies. I know I already said this, but thank you everyone for appearing into our lives and helping us out to bring the forest back to life. We would never forget any of you, and you're always welcome to come and visit us again. I said out loud to the empty field that was in front of me. Almost as a reply, a gentle breeze came towards me and my brother, taking away any kind of sadness that wanted to linger into my heart. We both left the empty field. We didn't get to spend that much time with the fairies to the point of getting to know them or the world. If it wasn't for the lavender flowers that the red fairy had left in my room, I would have thought that it was nothing but a dream, a fragment of our imaginations. But it wasn't, and it happened, and it was real. I didn't want to lose hope that someday the house was in the middle of the forest would appear again, together with that grumpy red fairy.